Good evening and welcome to Metro Focus. I'm Jenna Flanagan. Segregation on Long Island. According to a study conducted by Brown and Florida State University, although Long Island has become more racially diverse, it continues to be one of the most segregated regions in the country, ranking 10th in terms of the highest levels of segregation between blacks and whites. Now, a new housing plan proposed by the Department of Housing and Urban Development, if adopted, may make the situation even worse, as many civil rights advocates fear it could lead to even more housing discrimination in the region. Here with more on this is Elaine Gross, president of Erase Racism. Elaine, welcome to the program.
Thank you very much. Glad to be here.
So first, I just want you to quickly paint sort of a picture for people who might not be familiar with the segregation that actually exists even in 2019 on Long Island.
Well, the history of Long Island includes what is called structural racism. For the community of Levittown, there were discriminatory policies that would not allow people who were not white, namely African Americans, to live in that community. And the intent was actually to keep blacks out in perpetuity, because there were racial covenants in the deeds that even if a white person had purchased a home, they could not resell to a black person. So that history has really shaped Long Island, and the continuing housing discrimination has perpetuated the segregation.
And how does that affect the divide that we see today between blacks and whites? Of course, a lot of people talk about the wealth gap, the housing gap, et cetera. How does that affect and perpetuate those issues?
Well, I'll just mention we have public schools, 125 of them, that are primarily racially segregated. And we looked at some stats between 2004 and 2016, which showed that we started out with 5 intensely segregated school districts, and we ended up with 11. So more than doubling, and that is 90 to 100% students of color. So it has broad impact. This housing segregation has broad impact on the wealth in communities, on the opportunities in the schools, et cetera.
So then what is this new proposal from HUD that we're hearing about that might actually exacerbate the problem? Because it seems like the role of the government usually, like Brown versus Board of Education would be a good example, is to sort of fix these problems. Why is this proposal perhaps going to make it worse?
It would make it extremely difficult for people to be successful with their lawsuits, for example, because they would have to prove that the party intended to discriminate. And that's very difficult to do. That's why disparate impact has been the rule of law, has been used in case law successfully, because it is very difficult for a plaintiff to find an occasion where the defendant actually said, I'm doing this intentionally to discriminate against you. This rule is even more insidious. One of the things that a defendant could say is the practice that we're doing is really standard industry practice. And that could be held up as, okay, then what you did is okay, even though the result was discriminatory. So that's why it is so important that people say we believe in the Fair Housing Act, we believe in disparate impact. That is a legitimate and it is a proven way of being able to stop people from discriminating.
So then with this new HUD policy, what is it that your group, Erase Racism, is fighting against?
So first of all, we are asking as many people as possible to comment on this proposed change, this proposed rule, because we have a comment period until October 19th. when the public can say that they are against this. Of course, we don't know what the government will do in response, but we at least need to make our voices heard around this issue. So Erase Racism and other civil rights organizations, many other groups, are encouraging people to do this. They can go to our website to get linked in, to put in a comment. Our website is www.eraseracismny.org. If they know how to use the federal system, they can go to the federal system directly and put in a comment. But we are also finding ways locally and at the state level to try to promote fair housing. And, you know, despite the fact that the federal government is backing away, is rolling back those protections. One of the things we're doing is organizing residents. One of the issues that was successful with disparate impact, for example, in the town of Huntington, when the plaintiffs were saying to the town, we want to build some affordable housing, not in the segregated area, but in some other areas that have some greater opportunities. Well, they had to go to court because the town wanted to make them stay in a segregated area for the housing. They won that case, but it has taken a very long time. I mean, it's over a decade, and so the housing hasn't been built yet, but the court ruled that disparate impact was the cause of discrimination, that it would perpetuate segregation, and so therefore the town could not do that. So that's why it is so important that people say we believe in the Fair Housing Act, we believe in disparate impact, that is a legitimate and it is a proven way of being able to stop people from discriminating. For example, in the town of Oyster Bay, they had a policy that said if you already live in the town, then you have access to some of the housing. Well, Oyster Bay has 3% black people living there, and only 1% of that 3% were income eligible for the affordable housing in the town. So there was a disparate impact because there are all these other black people who don't live in the town who were income eligible, and they would be blocked from being able to access that housing. So they don't have to put the sign up that says no blacks come into this housing, but they get the same result, a discriminatory result.
Listen, Ms. Gross, I want to thank you so much for joining us and bringing our attention to this very important issue unfolding on Long Island. We'll, of course, be checking back in with you and with other people to find out what the outcome of this decision is.
Thank you for having me.